Motorhead Garage, the program that each week introduces you to and shows you how to install the latest in exciting and innovative products for your vehicle. Motorhead Garage is presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. Now here's your host, Dave Dobson.
Hey there, Motorheads. Thank you for tuning in. Now, this is a rod end. You may recognize it. If you have anything that needs to pivot or articulate on any vehicle, you're going to need a rod end. And Bob Douglas is here from Rod End Supply, the place to get rod ends. And Bob, how many different vehicles do you cover with your rod ends?
We cover everything from go-karts, farm equipment, monster trucks, off-road vehicles, circle track, drag, just about anything and everything.
Now, what are some of the most extreme things you've had to make a rod end for?
We did a special rod end for SpaceX, one of their rockets, some exotic material, high misalignment, had a slot cut into threads for a set screw, didn't use a jam nut or anything of that nature. That was probably one of the most weird, I would say. We also make a rod end that's extremely small and is used by Disney. So when you see the eyes pivot back and forth and the ears wobble and the animatronics.
So let's talk about the materials. What kind of quality are we talking?
We've got economy two-piece type rod ends, which basically is a material that we use. It's a C1045 steel. It uses a 52-100 bearing steel ball that's hard chrome plated. That's the least expensive. They call them economy rod ends. Then we have a precision three-piece rod end, has a ball, has a body, and has a race. And then we have another rod end that we make that's got an injection molded material that we call nylofiber, and it takes the place of a precision rod end that uses a Teflon liner.
You know, other folks are making rod ends out there. What sets Rod End Supply apart from the other ones?
We've got a very good staff that knows applications, knows materials. We keep a good amount of inventory, and we try to ship within 2 days. Doesn't always happen, but we try.
And you have thousands of items in your catalog, and it's not just rod ends. How far does it go? What other stuff do you make for vehicles?
We make all kinds of different things. We make what we call a 4-bar end. These are used on Jeeps and other off-roading vehicles. These particular parts are used on street rods, street machines. We have them in stainless, chrome, black, oxide. We also make the bungs. If somebody wants to make a connecting tube between each end of the rod end, radius rods sometimes they're called, drag links, this type of thing. We make those in various sizes. We also make the tubes themselves. This is a chromoly tube that's got the ends welded in it. This is a steel tube and it's swedged down on the ends. And this is an aluminum tube. We also make all different types of clevises in different sizes. We also put studs in rod ends. Some are tapered for applications, some are just basically a standard bolt. These are affixed in the rod end so they do not come out. We make adjusters, the male adjusters, male to female adjusters. And you can also screw a female and male rod end together to make an adjuster. We make a lot of specials for specific companies that want parts, and this is a wide variety of those. This particular rod end is made for a company that makes dampening louvers for heating and air conditioning. We also sell a lot of different shock parts that we manufacture for shock companies. We also have cups that are used in the spherical bearings. These are mounted down in, and normally what they do is they can make a suspension component like an A-arm by welding tubes onto this cup. We also make high misalignment spacers to take a standard rod end and make it a high misalignment rod end.
With any car, it's pretty unlikely you won't have the part in stock, but what if I need something specialized like the folks from SpaceX or Disney?
That takes time to do. We're looking at anywhere from 16, 18 weeks to develop it, time we get it made. We're not a onesie-twosie type shop. There has to be some quantity involved with it for us to make something special.
Well, we've got something a little more standard here behind us. We've got this 33 Plymouth hot rod. It needed some new rod ends. We looked at the bushings on there. They didn't look great, so we decided it was time for new rod ends, and we went to replace those. So the process, of course, we had to remove the old ones. A little tricky getting to some of the bolts there. They were in some tight spots.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, but we managed to get it out, a little teamwork. We got them out there, and then we discovered the bushings in there weren't so great as we suspected.
Most of them were falling apart. They'd already deteriorated to the point that they weren't holding anything. They appear to be rubber. After a while, the rubber hardens up, and then it starts breaking up, and it comes out. We're replacing them with our 4-bar ends that has the poly bushing in them, and our sleeve that goes inside the poly bushing is a stainless sleeve, and so therefore it doesn't rust and doesn't corrode and adhere itself to the mounting bolt that you put it through.
And how long can we expect something like that to last?
Oh, I would think you ought to be able to get at least 20 years out of them.
Seems like plenty.
Yeah, should be.
And so the process, once we got the old ones out, we had to measure to make sure we had them dialed in right and tighten the jam nut down.
Correct.
Putting it back in, it was just as simple as reversing the process.
Yes.
And these are super easy. The only hard part with us is we had some difficulty accessing the actual bolts and everything.
Yeah, some of the bolts were kind of hidden in places. It took a little bit more ingenuity to be able to get on them.
What's the owner of this vehicle going to notice once he has his new rods?
We're working on the rear end right now, and he's going to probably notice that the car doesn't want to walk, because when the bushings get that loose and sloppy, and one of them, the bushings had deteriorated, that it was really sloppy. And so the rear end has a tendency to want to move around in the chassis, and so it's not wanting the car to run down the road straight. And so he's probably going to notice that more than anything else. And the way the bushings were bad, there had to be some clunking noises going on somewhere.
I'm sure of it. Now we know the cause.
Yes.
If you've got a hot rod like this, if you've got your daily driver, if you've got a tractor or a rocket ship, you need rod ends, and you need to get them at rodendsupply.com. They are the best on the planet. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, so do not move.